Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're plunging into a world of immense passion, nail-biting finishes, and absolutely staggering revenue. The global sports market. Just think about it. The NFL alone, it raked in something like $18 billion in 2022.
Incredible numbers.
Yeah, and the Premier League over in Europe, that was $6.1 billion. And the whole global sports market, it's on track to hit, what, $708 billion by 2026? Just monumental. But, beneath all that excitement and, frankly, the cash, there's this problem. It plagues millions of fans like you. Imagine this. Start of the season, you're dreaming, right? Seeing your team in the Super Bowl, maybe the March Madness final. You want to be there.
Of course, in the thick of it.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. Your team might not even make it. So, what do you do? Do you shell out for tickets maybe a year in advance, risking a huge chunk of money on something that's, well, totally uncertain? This massive uncertainty, it fuels what the research we're looking at today calls the gray and noisy secondary market. And let's be honest, by that they mean scalpers.
It's a real dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is not just the frustration, that you feel as a fan. It's also the significant revenue sports organizations themselves are leaving on the table because of all this uncertainty.
Okay, so it hits the organizations, too.
Definitely. When fans are forced into these risky advance buys or, later pushed into that secondary market, it comes with huge downsides. Financial ones, experiential ones. Just look at the data. Tickets for the 2020 Super Bowl, averaging $7,000 on StubHub, often thousands more than face value.
Wow, $7,000.
Yeah. Or think about 2022, the NCAA Men's Final Four, that epic UNC versus Duke game.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Tickets for that game soared above $6,000. That's just a ton of money being siphoned off by third parties, money that never actually reaches the teams or the leagues.
And that's exactly the problem we're diving into today. Our mission here is to explore some really groundbreaking pricing mechanisms, specifically what are known as consumer forwards and consumer options. Now, these aren't just like abstract ideas. They're actually designed to solve this very uncertainty, maybe protect fans from getting ripped off, and crucially boost profits for the sports organizations. All of this is based on a really illuminating recent study from the Journal of Business Research. So, look, if you've ever felt that sting, overpaying a scalper, or maybe you've been stuck with a ticket for a game your team got knocked out of, you are definitely not alone. And today, we're exploring how that whole frustrating system could potentially be completely transformed. So, okay, that's the promise of these new systems. But let's dig into the current situation first. Why is the advanced pricing model we have now? Why isn't it really working for anyone?
Well, the current status quo, or advanced pricing as you call it, it's where organizations sell tickets really early, often long before the participating teams are even known. It's standard practice, for major tournaments, but it just creates this massive chasm of uncertainty.
Right.
Think about it. How often does your favorite team consistently reach the final? In the NFL, you've got 32 teams. Only just five, made it to the Super Bowl more than once in the last decade.
That's not a lot.
No, it's huge unpredictability. And you see similar high levels of uncertainty in massive events like the FIFA World Cup, the ICC Cricket World Cup, or, NCAA March Madness. Huge uncertainty. Yet tickets for these final games are often sold almost a year ahead of time.
Okay, so what are the actual consequences then? Beyond just that feeling of risk for the fan, how does this old system play out in reality?
Well, it leads to several pretty significant issues. First, there's just widespread fan frustration.
Yeah.
You might buy a ticket way in advance, only for your team to get eliminated early. Suddenly, you're stuck with a ticket to a game you maybe have zero interest in attending.
Right, so you've got to sell it.
Exactly. Then you're forced to try and resell it, often in that risky, kind of opaque secondary market. Which brings us to the second, and arguably the biggest problem, scalper dominance. These third-party resellers, StubHub, SeatGeek, they thrive on this uncertainty. They snap up tickets, then resell them at these exorbitant prices once the final teams are known. They capture all that extra value.
And the teams get nothing extra from that.
Precisely. So sports organizations are consistently leaving substantial revenue on the table that, frankly, should be theirs. Plus, it introduces legal and fraud issues, too. Lots of U.S. states, for example, they have laws trying to restrict resale, like Arizona's got that 200-foot rule around venues, or Florida makes it a misdemeanor to resell for more than $1 over face value.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. But enforcement is tricky. And then there's just rampant fraud. Fake tickets selling non-existent seats, people outright reneging on sales. It leaves fans heartbroken and stranded sometimes. We even saw those massive class action lawsuits against StubHub back in 2020 because they initially refused refunds for events canceled due to COVID.
Wow. Okay. So for you, the listener, if you've ever paid way, way over face value for a ticket, or maybe you got stuck with one for a game you didn't care about in the end, you've directly experienced the fallout of this current pretty broken system. It's clearly not working optimally, not for fans and definitely not for the organizations themselves. Okay, so if the current system is so clearly flawed, what are these researchers actually proposing? What are these innovative pricing mechanisms that could genuinely fix this?
Right. This is where the paper gets really interesting and offers, I think, a truly transformative solution. They propose two main mechanisms. Let's define them clearly. The first is consumer forwards. Now, you might know forwards from finance, right? An agreement to buy or sell something later at a set price.
Yeah.
In the sports context, it's like a team-specific forward ticket. You buy it by paying an initial smaller reserve price up front.
A deposit, kind of?
Sort of, yeah. Now, if your chosen team makes it to the final game, you are then obligated, that's the keyword, obligated to complete the purchase. You pay an additional exercise price for the actual ticket. But here's the clever part. If your team doesn't make it, the forward just expires. You lose only that initial reserve price you paid.
Okay. So less risk up front.
Much less risk. And the study itself highlights that this is apparently the first time forward pricing has been formally modeled in consumer markets like this, which is pretty significant.
So let me see if I've got this. It's like a highly conditional reservation. You're committed, you have to buy, but only if your team delivers. If they don't, you're just out that smaller upfront fee. Is that about right?
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. A good real-world parallel you might have seen is with the College Football Playoff National Championship game, RSVPs.
Oh.
Those are essentially team-specific reservations. They guarantee fans access to buy face-value tickets if and only if their team qualifies. It's that same concept, conditional obligation. Okay, so that's forwards. The second mechanism is consumer options. Now, this sounds similar, but there's a crucial difference.
Okay.
An option gives you the right, but crucially, not the obligation, to complete a transaction once the future state, like who's playing, is known.
Right, not obligation.
Exactly. So you buy an option ticket by paying an initial option price. Then, after the final teams are decided, you can choose whether or not to exercise that option and buy the final game ticket by paying the additional exercise price. If you're, I don't know, no longer interested, maybe the matchup isn't exciting, or your team lost and you just don't care about the final anymore.
You just walk away.
You just let the option expire. You only lose that initial option price you paid. That fundamental difference, the fan's choice at the end, irrespective of which teams are playing it, seems subtle, but it has really significant implications, as the study shows.
And we do see things like options elsewhere, don't we? Like in travel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about Singapore Airlines has that Secure My Fare feature.
Yeah.
Where you pay a small fee to hold a flight price for a few days without fully committing.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Or some hotel reservation systems offer similar flexibility. It's the same core idea. Pay a little now for flexibility later.
Okay, so let me try and summarize the core difference for everyone listening. A forward is basically a you're in if your team is in deal. You have to buy the final ticket if your team makes it.
Obligate.
An option, though, that's more like a you choose to be in no matter who's playing deal. It gives you the ultimate flexibility to back out, only losing your initial payment. It's subtle, but yeah, that's a powerful distinction. Now, to really get how these new mechanisms work, we need to talk about you, the fan. Because the research actually identifies two distinct types of fans, and these pricing models are kind of brilliantly designed to cater to their different motivations.
That's exactly right. The first type they identify is the team-based fan. Now, this fan, for them, it's all about their team. They have essentially zero utility, basically zero interest or enjoyment if their favorite team isn't playing in the final game.
Total loyalty, my team or nothing.
Pretty much. Their loyalty is absolute. Then the second type is the game-based fan. This fan, they have positive utility for any matchup, meaning they simply want to be at the event itself. They love the spectacle, the atmosphere, the championship experience, regardless of who's playing.
Okay, so diehard loyalist versus someone who just loves the big game experience.
Exactly. Those are the two fundamental drivers.
So how would these different fan types actually use these new ticket mechanisms then? Like, how would they approach buying a forward versus an option?
Well, it lines up pretty intuitively. A team-based fan, the loyalist, they would obviously only ever buy a forward for their specific team. because if that team doesn't make it, their intent just plummets to zero, right?
Makes sense.
A game-based fan, on the other hand, the one who loves the spectacle, they might actually buy forwards for multiple teams, maybe all the teams on one side of a tournament bracket, just to guarantee themselves a seat, knowing only one can actually advance.
Ah, interesting strategy. Hedging their bets.
Kind of. Or they might just buy a single option ticket, because they know they'll be happy to go no matter what the final matchup turns out to be. The option gives them that flexibility without needing multiple forwards. And what's truly insightful here is that the research actually put dollar values on these different fan motivations through their study.
Oh, really? What did they find?
They found that pure game-based fans, the ones who just love the spectacle, they actually value attending a preferred game highest, like significantly more. Their average utility was $213. That's higher than even the most loyal team-based fans valued seeing their preferred team, which is $163.
Wow, that's surprising.
It is a bit, isn't it? And even for a non-preferred game, those game-based fans still got a healthy amount of utility, around $100 worth. This fundamental difference in what various fans value is really the bedrock for designing these smarter ticketing systems.
Okay, so we've defined these new tools, forwards, and options, and we understand the fan psychology, the team-based versus game-based distinction. But for the sports organizations, the bottom line is, well, the bottom line, right?
Oh, okay.
So let's talk profits. How do these mechanisms actually impact the money coming in? And I know the researchers look at this in two ways. First, imagining no stadium limits, and then crucially, adding in those real-world capacity constraints.
Exactly. So in that first theoretical scenario, without capacity constraints, it gets a bit nuanced. Profitability for forwards versus options can vary depending on exactly how much each fan type values the game. The study outlines different zones, but here's the key insight for the most common situation. Zone 4 in their model, which their data confirmed is most relevant. That's where game-based fans have the highest willingness to pay.
Right, the $213 value we just talked about.
Precisely. In that scenario, forward pricing can actually yield higher profits than option pricing, but only if the probability of a fan's preferred team winning is relatively high. Specifically, the study suggests if that chance is over, about 60%.
Huh. Now that is interesting. Why? Why would the obligated forward beat the flexible option when the odds are good? What's the trick there?
It's actually quite clever, the mechanism. Forwards essentially compel those high-utility game-based fans, remember, the ones desperate just to see a good game. It compels them to buy two forwards if they really want to guarantee a seat.
Ah, because they don't know which team will win from that side of the bracket.
Exactly. They might buy a forward for Team A and another for Team B, knowing only one can possibly win. But doing so ensures they have a guaranteed ticket regardless. This effectively allows the organization to extract more initial revenue, those reserve prices, from those really keen game-based fans.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's be real. Stadiums almost always have capacity limits. That's the reality. And you said this is where forwards really shine for the organizations.
Absolutely. With capacity constraints, this is where forward pricing offers a truly powerful, almost unique way to boost profits.
How so?
Its unique advantage is that a sports organization can effectively sell the same physical seat to fans of multiple different teams, provided those teams are on the same side of a tournament bracket and can't possibly play each other in the final.
Wait, sell the same seat multiple times? How does that work without chaos?
Because only one of those teams can actually make it to the final. Think about it. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this ability to essentially oversell the potential for a seat without actually over-delivering the physical seat itself is a massive revenue opportunity.
Okay, that's a huge shift in thinking. Can you walk me through an example?
Sure. Let's say you have Team A and Team B, both in the semifinals on one side of the bracket. A passionate fan of Team A buys a forward for seat 101. A passionate fan of Team B also buys a forward for seat 101.
Okay.
Both fans pay their reserve price. Now, the semifinal happens, and Team A wins. What happens? Team B's fans forward simply expires, worthless. They're out their reserve price. Only the Team A fan now has the obligation and the right to pay the exercise price and claim seat 101 for the final.
Got it. So the organization collected two reserve prices for that one seat's potential, but only has to deliver one actual ticket.
Exactly. This is in stark contrast to options or traditional advance selling. With those, you can only sell tickets up to the stadium's physical capacity because you don't know which fan will ultimately exercise their option or show up. You can't oversell the same seat. So the study found pretty definitively that forwards and options, but especially forwards, they dominate advanced pricing from a profitability standpoint in all scenarios in the presence of capacity constraints. It really is a potential game changer for revenue.
Okay, the theory sounds incredibly clever. You've got these mechanisms that manage uncertainty, cater to fan types, and potentially boost profits significantly, especially with forwards and capacity limits. But, does it actually work in the real world? Did the researchers test this with actual fans?
He did, yeah. And the results are really very encouraging. The study involved a national U.S. sample, nearly 600 fans, and they focused specifically on NCAA men's basketball Final Four tickets as the context. And crucially, they used what's called an incentive-compatible design, which basically means the participants had a real stake in their answers. They were entered into a drawing to actually purchase a real ticket based on their choices.
Ah, so it wasn't just hypothetical. It encourages people to be honest about what they'd actually pay.
Exactly. It makes the findings much more trustworthy for real-world application.
So what did they find? First off, was it easy for people to understand? Because if these forwards and options are too complicated, it's kind of a non-starter, right?
That's a critical point, absolutely. And the news on that front is really good. Their first key finding was about ease of understanding. A whopping 94% of the participants reported that they found both the forward and the options pricing concepts easy to understand.
94%, that's huge. Okay, so people get it. What about profitability in the real test?
Right. The second key finding was about profitability. Now, interestingly, while option pricing generally showed the highest maximum profit potential in the experiment, likely due to its flexibility appealing to many, there was a fascinating surprise with forwards. Forward pricing actually beat traditional advanced selling in terms of profitability, specifically at the lower probabilities of a fan's favorite team making it to the final. Like, for instance, if the chance was only 25%.
Okay, now that was a bit counterintuitive, wasn't it? Because you might just assume the flexible option would always win out for the organization, but for those lower probability, sort of long shot scenarios.
Yeah, like your team being a bit of an underdog.
Forwards actually brought in more profit for the organizers than just selling regular advanced tickets. Why do you think that happened?
It really seems to highlight forwards as this powerful uncertainty reduction mechanism, as the paper calls it. Even if your team is a long shot, having that conditional guaranteed access knowing your upfront payment is relatively small if they lose, but you're absolutely locked in if they pull off the miracle win that seems incredibly valuable to fans.
It's like a less risky way to dream big.
Exactly. It's a structured way to manage that hope and risk. And it gets even more interesting when you break it down by the fan types we discussed.
Right, the team-based versus game-based fans.
Yeah. So the game-based fans, remember, the ones who just love the spectacle. They generally preferred option pricing across the board, and they also preferred forward pricing over advanced selling when the probabilities were lower. They clearly value that flexibility the options provide. But here's where forwards really shone for the organizations with the true diehards, the team-based fans. For them, the study showed higher profitability for forwards compared to advanced selling across all the tested probabilities, whether their team had a 25%, 50%, or even a 75% chance of making it.
Across the board for the loyal fans, why forwards for them?
The thinking is because forward pricing offers them that higher level of protection they crave against the outcome they dread their team not being there. In that case, their utility, their enjoyment plummets to zero. The forward protects their access if the dream happens, at a lower initial cost if it doesn't.
Okay, so let me sum this up. The real-world tests seem to confirm it. Both forwards and options are generally preferred by fans over the old way. And crucially, they bring in more money for the organizations, especially forwards under certain conditions and with certain fans. It sounds like a genuine win-win.
It really does point in that direction. And, this isn't just some academic exercise generating interesting graphs. The researchers stress that these are actionable strategies for sports organizations to really transform how they operate. One of the biggest benefits, talking practically, is just taking back control of revenue.
From the scalpers.
Exactly. A vice president for ticket sales and services for a major NBA team, who they actually consulted for the study, confirmed this is a massive draw for organizations reclaiming those profits that currently get siphoned off by the secondary market. Plus, as we discussed, these mechanisms almost certainly lead to increased overall profits, especially if you apply them strategically at each successive stage of a tournament. You multiply that overselling potential of forwards.
Right, so you could use this system, say, for March Madness, starting from the round of 32, then the Sweet 16, Elite 8, all the way to the Final Four and the final game.
Exactly, layering it stage by stage. Furthermore, Organizations potentially gain more ability to control the mix of fans in the stadium and maybe even their seat locations. That could maximize the atmosphere, the energy.
Which probably boosts broadcast appeal and revenue too, right?
You'd have to think so.
Yeah.
And maybe the most encouraging thing for actual adoption. That NBA executive they spoke to, he found the ideas simple and implementable. He particularly appreciated what he called their self-executing nature.
Ah, that self-executing part is key, isn't it? Meaning, like, for forwards, if your team wins, the final charge hits your card automatically. Fans don't have to remember to log in or worry about missing a deadline.
Precisely. It just happens. It simplifies the whole process dramatically, which is obviously critical if you want fans and organizations to actually adopt these things.
Yeah. But this isn't just about sports, is it? I mean, these concepts of forwards and options for consumers, they could apply elsewhere, right? Think about other areas in life where you face uncertainty and wish you had more control or flexibility.
Oh, absolutely. The potential applications are much broader. Consider the vacation travel market.
Yeah.
Weather. Right. It regularly injects unwelcome uncertainty into vacation plans.
Tell me about it.
Well, imagine if vacationers could be offered travel forwards. These could be conditional on a specific weather quality index, say predicted sunshine hours or temperature at their destination. These forwards could automatically expire, maybe refunding part of the cost, a few days before travel if the forecast didn't meet certain pre-agreed thresholds for good weather. Or they'd execute, charging the traveler's account if the conditions look favorable.
Huh. Weather contingent vacation pricing? That's a fascinating idea.
Isn't it? This whole concept, consumer forwards and consumer options, it can really serve as a platform, a way for marketing managers to think much more broadly about creating consumer risk mitigation tools in basically any market where there's significant outcome uncertainty.
And that brings us towards the end of another deep dive. We've really covered some ground today, from the huge revenues and those frustrating uncertainties of big sports tournaments to these really innovative solutions, consumer forwards and consumer options. And we've explored their powerful implications, potentially for both you, the fan, and for the organizations running the show. So here's a final thought to leave you with. The next time you're dreaming of seeing your team in that championship final, or maybe you're planning that vacation that feels a bit uncertain, consider this. What other parts of your life could potentially be transformed by having something like a forward or an option contract available? How much would you actually value that certainty or that choice? Lots to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.